Okay then, it's time for a big video. Every now and then, usually about halfway through the year, I reflect on what I think personally is the best VR headsets on the market for flight simulation. And we're going to do that in this video today. So stick around and stay tuned after a quick word from VRWave. A huge shout out to VRWave for sponsoring and supporting this channel. They do produce the best lens inserts that I've come across for a full range of VR headsets that include HTC, of course Pimax, which you're looking at right now, as well as the Quest, Valve, PSVR 2, you get the idea. And the great thing about lens inserts is they help keep your lenses free from scratches, but also they do account for astigmatism if you're nearsighted or farsighted, and with blue light filters they also help combat motion sickness and insomnia. So make sure to check out my 5% discount in the description below. So welcome back folks, and thank you for being here, it really means a lot. It's been a crazy year so far, yet again. Just when I think things are just quiet and things are dying down for flight simulation and VR, yeah, never think that, because things tend to just go berserk all the time. Flight simulation is exploding right now, and VR is in a very good space when it comes to this hobby. I've no idea what it's like for gaming in the sort of general mainstream sense of the word, but for this hobby, oh yeah, VR is alive and kicking folks, it really is. Anyway, let's just get the autopilot set up here for our journey today. Oh no, it's not going to do it, or is it? I don't know, that was a bit dodgy, but no, I think we're going back on course now. Heading mode and FLC. Right, so things have changed again in 2026, and some of the headsets that I recommended, I don't recommend. And my favourite VR headset has now changed as well, because the technology is constantly evolving. But I do feel though that things have settled down a bit, and that's a good thing, because your hard-earned cash should go to an investment that should last a while now. Because admittedly there has been a point where VR headsets were just changing all the time and getting better and better very quickly. I think we've reached a plateau now. I'm going to do this in an order, one being the best VR headset in my opinion for flight simulation, and the first one which I'm going to talk about not being the worst, being the sort of more affordable option that I still recommend. And I'll also talk about some headsets that I don't recommend as well in 2026. So the first one is obviously, it's still the Quest 3. It's still in the list because quite simply it is a phenomenal headset for what it does. I just can't think of any VR headset that will come to market anytime soon that gives you that level of bang for your buck. It's just remarkable really. Those pancake lenses combined with the 2064 by 2208 pixels per eye display, well, they're not the best by a long stretch really, but they do have a wonderful, very crisp and clear image, especially when paired with virtual desktop. You get a whole host of different options as well. I think just the quality of the Quest 3, the software package, you know, it's a solid performer. It has a variable amount of refresh rates as well, from 72Hz, 80, 90 and I think 120. Field of view is around 108, 110 degrees. I think it's around 95, 96 vertically if I remember. A very nice wide IPD range as well, I think around 58 to 71 if I remember as well. But here's the thing, the Quest 3 has fantastic mixed reality. The pass-through is actually very good, and you can use it with your peripherals if you want to. Using programs like SimXR or even Virtual Desktop, you can create a little mask or little window into your real world. That's something that even the Dream Air can't do, you know? And other headsets as well, like the Crystal Super. So I think, whoops, going a bit quick here. This aircraft is a bit quick. And it doesn't have an auto throttle, which is a bit annoying, admittedly, but there you go. So overall, I think for someone who is starting out, and actually for anybody into VR, I think everyone should at least own a Quest 3, because it's seamless sort of way that it provides VR experiences and gives you that first taste of what it's like. It has to be a positive experience, and the Quest 3 will give you that. It really will. So that's the first one I recommend, and I think I'm probably going to recommend probably 6 or 7 tops anyway. The next one, so we're going a bit higher in the scale now. The next one I recommend for flight simulation, remember that's what this video is about. It's not about Beat Saber, it's about flight simulation. Although I will say, the Quest 3 tracking is fantastic, you know, so that's good. The Pimax Crystal Lite is quite remarkably still a headset I recommend in 2026, and it's one of those headsets, when I go back to it, I'm always really shocked with the image quality from that 2880 35 ppd QLED display. In terms of the field of view figures, if I remember, because I'm doing all this, I'm saying all this not from a script but from in VR, so I'm just trying to remember everything. I think it was 102 or 104 degrees horizontal and 102 degrees vertical, around there. But the display in that is fantastic. It's actually very comfortable, even though it looks ridiculous, like you've got a hammerhead shark on your head. I know it looks really, really stupid. It looks like it should be uncomfortable, but it just isn't, especially with a studio form kit. It's not bad at all. You get local dimming as well. Very nice audio options with the DMAS floating ear design, which is the best in the business. And of course you get inside out tracking like the Quest 3. You don't need base stations. So it really is a solid performer, and let me tell you, that 35 ppd display is still as good, really. I mean, you know, when it's all said and done, it's not that far off even the 50 ppd Super and the Dream Air as well, because you are getting diminishing returns after that 35 ppd quality. In my opinion, that's kind of the sweet spot really in terms of visual fidelity and performance. So yeah, a solid performer. The Crystal Lite is still a very good headset. I will say though, there is some negatives, which I haven't really mentioned about the Quest 3, because really for the price there isn't many, if anything really. Perhaps I will say for the Quest 3, which I did mention, is the comfort is a bit shit out the box. You definitely need some accessories. Definitely recommend that, and I've got a full video on the best accessories to the Quest 3. When it comes to Crystal Lite, there's no issue with comfort really, especially if you get the studio form kit, but it does, as I say, look a bit silly in 2026. That form factor is very large. You do get a lot of inertia because it sort of sticks out quite wide. It didn't even need to be that big really. I would love to see a refresh version of the Crystal Lite in a much smaller form factor, but it does borrow its design from the OG Crystal, which had all of the XR2 chipset in it, and all the computer stuff, which it needed to be that big. But for the Crystal Lite, it's got all that crap completely out of it, but it's still showing the same design because it had to sort of obviously cost cut somewhere in order to get the Crystal Lite out so fast. But it would be good to see a sort of Varia Aero-esque kind of form factor, or even smaller than that, Crystal Lite. I think that would still be a very relevant headset, maybe even with eye tracking as well. But this sort of price range, you're just not going to get that. But overall, I think the Crystal Lite is a very good option, especially for those out there that want to have a high-end headset with a DisplayPort connection for not a high-end price. So that's my opinion on that one. Now before we move on, I just want to make sure you realise that I'm not going to give you every intricate detail of each of these VR headsets. I have full reviews on the channel for that, which go into all of the things you want to know. I'll try and remember to stick them in the notes below, but this is just a sort of overview of what I think is still relevant and still worth your time and perhaps money as well as a flight simulation headset into 2026 at the time of this recording, which is July 2026. Now for this next VR headset, things take a very dramatic turn now, especially in terms of form factor. It is the Bigscreen Beyond, and in this particular video I am recommending still in 2026 the 2 and 2E, that's the one with eye tracking. And let's be also very clear about this, Bigscreen were the first, they were the innovators to actually bring that form factor down, and even to this day it is still the lightest and smallest VR headset on the planet. It really is. And congratulations to Bigscreen, because it is their 10-year anniversary, would you believe? I mean, the Bigscreen Beyond hasn't been around for 10 years, it's been around since I think 2023, but they were in the VR sphere from 2016 when they had various pieces of software released. I think the first one was free on Steam, and it was like a desktop app where you could even share it with your friends, you know, and you can be in the same space together. Again, probably a first in 2016, because I mean that was a long time ago now. Of course, we all know Bigscreen for their social media platform and their cinematic platform where you could just sit in a cinema and enjoy lots of films, which was just amazing and still very, very cool today. But I'm not really interested in that side of Bigscreen. Things really kicked off in 2020 when they really wanted to focus on a no compromise, insanely small form factor micro OLED VR headset. And in fairness, it did have some quite severe compromises in terms of the optics when it was first released, with glare, something I did moan about quite a lot. But after a lot of prototyping and testing, and I can't imagine what they had to go through to get to that stage, in 2023 the Bigscreen Beyond 1 was released, and to be fair, it changed VR forever. Companies like Pimax and even Meta, you know, and Valve, they're all watching, and Apple, I would say. And at that point, it was the race to get the smallest form factor and the most comfortable VR headset. And if we think back to present day, in 2025, the Bigscreen Beyond 2 and 2E was released with its 2560 per eye display, same panel as the Beyond 1, but with far better optics. You still get glare though, folks, you still get glare, but it's nowhere near as bad. But the sweet spot in that headset is phenomenal, and I still personally recommend it, definitely all day long, over the Dream Air SE, which is a shame because Pimax could have nailed it with the Dream Air SE, because that is basically a Beyond 2 but with inside-out tracking, controllers and eye tracking. Well, eye tracking that works more seamlessly anyway. But in reality, that's not the case, because the SE has terrible build quality, has problems with its optics, the IPD measurements are incorrect, it gives me eye strain, okay? It has a tiny field of view of around, well, as bad as 80-85 with my testing with the original facial interface, compared with the Beyond 2, which has 109 degrees horizontal and 100 and something vertical. It's a real shame, you know, but I personally feel Bigscreen as a company, well, they've really showcased how professional they are and have been, and even through some of the darkest times in VR, even some of the times when, do you remember when we had a real issue with shipping? They actually foot the bill for that. Another example is when people were still buying Beyond 1s when the Beyond 2 was released and announced. But Bigscreen, they just sent out Beyond 1 orders, Beyond 2s, without telling them about it. How nice is that, you know? And I just love how Bigscreen tend to just do things very differently. They don't shout about things that they've got planned, you know, for next year or whatever like that. You know, they're very busy right now, I'd imagine, making a new VR headset. Who knows? But they're not going to tell people until it's ready, you know? I think other manufacturers, Pimax, you're listening, could definitely learn from the way Bigscreen do their business. And in terms of the fit and finish and build quality and longevity, software, which is very simplistic, admittedly, but it does everything very, very well. And I've never had an issue with the Beyond 2. And something else I want to quickly say, and I will move on, because the Beyond 2, I've got a lot of time for that headset. I actually think it's really a fabulous VR headset. And definitely in terms of where it sits, I would highly recommend it over the Crystal Light and over the Quest 3, for example. One thing I have noticed, Beyond 2 owners stick with their headset. They don't seem to flit around and buy loads of different VR headsets. They tend to just stick with that headset and just be happy with it and content with it. And with the eye tracking version, this is a bit more of a controversial one, shall we say, because I personally feel, hang on folks, we're drifting off course here, there we go. I personally feel that the eye tracking in the Beyond 2 works really well. It's not as seamless as the, you know, Pimax headsets, of course, but I find it works well, but it is quite finicky, say if you change your facial interface and that kind of thing. So that's worth noting. And some people haven't got on with it, but I've had no issues with it myself, personally. Goodness me, we are really off course. It's fine, don't worry. It's fine, we've got a lot to talk about anyway, so a detour isn't such a bad thing. Now, in terms of, obviously, probably some of the negatives, or at least some of the things to factor in, this headset does require base stations. That is an extra cost. And of course, if you want controllers, that's also an extra cost, unfortunately. So things do start to ramp up. And I do feel base station tracking is starting to get a little bit archaic. And even though it still is the best tracking solution, don't get me wrong, and I still prefer it, you know, inside-out tracking is getting to the point now where it is the preferred option for many people. What else? Well, that's kind of it really. In terms of resolution, I suppose refresh rate could be a negative, but that's just the nature of that display. 75 Hz feels fine. I prefer it to the 72 Hz of the Dream Air, for example. And yeah, comfort, you don't really need to mod it like you need to with other VR headset. It is very comfortable out the box, especially with a whole host of options. You can have it 3D scan to your face, or you can get a more universal foam set. You can go for the Studio Form kit as well. The audio, deluxe audio strap, it's not called that, but you know what I'm talking about. You know, the audio strap with it is also really good. Very nice audio. I think it's a bit flimsy. I must admit those speakers aren't the best quality, but it is a very comfortable headset and insanely light, way lighter than even the Dream Air. So yeah, anyway, I've talked about the Beyond 2 a bit more than normal, but that's because I still really love that headset, and since it is Bigscreen's 10-year anniversary, they deserve an extra mention because I've got a lot of time for that company. And I do have a $100 discount, an exclusive discount, which is very rare. Don't think I've ever had that much off that headset before. That's live at the moment, so if you want to grab that deal while it's still live, because it's it's only for a very short time period, I think from, is it July 23rd-ish to August the 2nd, you can get $100 off that headset. Link will be in the notes below. Right then folks, so that's the Quest 3, the Crystal Light, Bigscreen Beyond version 2 and 2E. Things are starting to get a bit serious now because the next headset I still recommend, if you can get it, because that's the only issue. I'm not quite sure what the deal is here with Pimax, but I do actually still recommend the Crystal Super range, and that includes the 50 ppd, which is my personal recommendation, because the 50 ppd with its 3840 per eye display Very nice field of view. I measured around 126, 127 vertical, and I think it's 102 or so. Sorry, 128 horizontal and 102-ish vertical, I think. Don't quote me on that, but it's very good field of view. Massive aspheric lenses, no glare, insane clarity. 50 ppd is so clear. It is way sharper than that of, say, the Bigscreen Beyond version 2. It absolutely is, and leaps ahead of the Quest 2. Interestingly, in terms of the crystal light, it is sharper, but not a massive amount. So, you know, take that as you will. But you do get mirror in that display, you know, and that's across all of them with the 57 ppd, which again is a bit sharper, and the ultra wide, which you get, well, I personally get 136, 137 degrees horizontal. That, in my opinion, is phenomenal for sim racing. It is a comfortable headset. In my opinion, it actually is probably the most reliable of all of the Pimax headsets. When that got launched, even though it has more moving parts with the swappable optical engine, weirdly, there was less issues, less drama. The headset just works. You know, there is the odd thing, of course, it's never going to be perfect, and there's going to be people out there that have, you know, got issues with their optical engines, of course. I think there was an issue with the IPD slider or motor failing, but I think that got nipped in the bud quite quickly. But overall, that headset with its really nice sweet spot large aspheric lenses, just a superb headset. And for flight simulation, actually, you know, still with that cute LED, beautiful color palette and decent black levels, you get DMS audio with it as well. You know, inside out tracking is very good. You don't need base stations. We are talking of crazy resolution, and I think in terms of refresh rates, let me think. I think it is, well, obviously you get 90 hertz. Let me just check, actually, because I can check with my desktop function. Hang on a second, folks, just so I can get it right here. Yeah, okay, 72 hertz and 90, but you don't get 120 hertz, which you do get with the crystal light. Now, obviously, you get eye tracking as well. That works out really well. IPD range is 58 to 72. So, overall, I personally still feel that the Crystal Super is a superb headset for flight simulation. And yes, it is on the bulky side, but it is comfortable. And so long as you don't have, you know, issues with your neck or anything, you know, I think it's fine for a couple of hours. Right. Crunch time then. We're getting close now, folks. We're getting close. The next VR headset I recommend, over the Crystal Super, over the Bigscreen Beyond, over all the other ones I've mentioned, is the Meganex Superlight 8K. Mark II, though, not the Mark 1. Although if you've got a Mark 1 and it's working fine, then that's great as well. Don't change it, you don't need to. But the Mark 1 did have some teething issues with the software, and I do have a full review of the Mark II on the channel. But the Meganex, well, that has been, well, my favourite daily driver VR headset for quite some time, especially in this changing landscape for VR. Wow, I mean, it must have been my favourite headset for nearly a year and a half, or at least well over a year anyway. And it's all to do with that beautiful BOE 4K micro OLED display. The resolution is 3552 by 3840. We have a refresh rate of 90 hertz here. So this was the first sort of high-end 4K micro OLED wired PC VR headset that did 90 hertz. And it's just really a beautiful place to be for your eyes. But not only that, the comfort is absolutely first class, with an IPD range of 58 to 72, I think. Pancake lenses, which, well, they are decent. I actually quite like them. It's funny how things have changed, because compared to something like the Dream Air, the Pancake lenses actually aren't that great anymore. But when it was first released, they were pretty good, because I was comparing them to the Beyond 1. Then the Beyond 2 came out, which was then better in my opinion than the Mega X. So it's just a crazy time really. But I like to keep you updated with all this stuff because it has been changing quite a lot. Now the display is a bit warpy in places, but the good thing is that you can use the S-Boy 3 driver. Let's start descending here, which really does help with that. So S-Boy 3, if you're watching this, thank you so much for all you do for the community. Really, it's amazing what you've done. I'm so glad we have people like you around because we definitely need them in the VR community. But yeah, the Mega X, in my opinion, if you've got one and you're enjoying it, then there's no need to upgrade in 2026. It just isn't. However, unfortunately for negatives with the Mega X, apart from the warpiness, which obviously is a negative, you don't get integrated audio with it, which is a shame, and you don't get eye tracking, which is a real shame. It is. Especially, as I say, in 2026. Eye tracking is something that really is coming to its own now, finally. We have dynamic foveated rendering support for MSFS, DCS World. You know, even X-Plane is getting on the bandwagon now. It's something that is a shame, but if you've got a very powerful computer, you kind of really don't need it anyway. But yeah, that 4K micro LED display, BOE panel is still fabulous. This is something as well which is quite mind-blowing. I think it's the first headset that doesn't need modding for comfort, because with the Mega X hard strap, it's just so comfortable. Right up there with the Beyond 2 in terms of comfort. Really, really very nice. So I think it's now time to reveal the ultimate best PC VR headset for 2026. At the time of this recording anyway, in July. And I think it's pretty obvious which one it is. But actually, you might be surprised with what I'm going to say here, because it's either the Pimax Crystal Micro OLED engine, or the Dream Air, and that is included basically the SLAM and base station version. I'm using the SLAM version. If I'm honest, if I wanted to really pick the best of the best, this is it, the SLAM version of the Dream Air. What Pimax have done with this headset is quite frankly revolutionary. A small form factor 4K Sony display, but with inside out tracking and eye tracking as well, and it's absolutely glorious. It really is. The visuals of this headset, they're as good as they're gonna get for quite a while yet as well, in my opinion. No Miura, perfect blacks, fantastic clarity, just the whole 9 yards. Really nice brightness. The pancake lenses in this do beat that of the Mega X. They're very similar to that of the Quest 3, which is high praise indeed, especially for a micro OLED display, which is a lot harder, by the way, than a big LCD display. They've done a really great job with this. There's minimal warping, and to be fair, if you do complain and notice any warping, you can change the S-Boy 3 driver. Really good field of view at the box. I'm getting 112 degrees horizontal, and I think, what was it, 96 degrees? Or is it a bit, no, sorry, no, that's wrong, 92 degrees vertical, but really it should be around 89, but with my windfall figures I actually got 92. But I think that's in part thanks to some modifications I've made to this headset, which you do need to get the best out of it. And I've mentioned this so many times now, so I'll just briefly go over it. I'm using a community gasket from Z Flyboy, which is friggin' amazing. There's different versions. I'm using the 3mm closer with an Apple Vision Pro head strap, medium, with a link box adapter, which is available. I think you have to spend a bit of money on that. I think it's $10, $11 for the 3D printed files, which basically keeps the link box well away from my neck, and I just don't feel it at all. It's just completely out of the way. And of course, Studio Form foam kits. I'm using which one? I think it's the medium one, leather, but there's also fabric available. I have a 5% discount in the notes below for all things Studio Form. Together, all that creates a VR experience that is the best of the best. The micro OLED panel in this, I cannot say it enough, it is class. It is absolute top tier class. It's beautiful. And a massive congratulations to Pimax, really, for, you know, I mean, this best VR headset recap for 2026. Well, there's 3 Pimax headsets in this, so they really are improving. To actually win this, I don't think that's ever happened before, quite honestly. So a huge congratulations to Pimax, whether it's the inside-out tracking version, the SLAM version, or the outside-in, if you want to use base stations. They're both absolutely phenomenal. You know, the eye tracking is perfect, it doesn't falter, the software is improving all the time. It is just a very, very nice place to be. Even the audio, for God's sake, in these stems are very, very good as well. I can't wait to see what the DMAS strap's going to be like, but in all honesty, I'm actually very happy with the way it is anyway with the Apple Vision Pro head strap. Will say though, negatives, because they are negatives, the facial interface out of the box is horrendous. I hate the splitter box. You do need to have that mod, ideally, or some sort of mod to mitigate the heat. And there has been some quality control issues with the stems failing and the cables. But in terms of that Sony 4K micro display, combined with the pancake lenses, it's absolutely solid. The panel itself, quality control wise, is superb. I've tested many of them. I've never seen one dead pixel or any issues really with the display. They're just all fantastic. We're getting a lot of yawing here. I'm not sure what's going on. So yeah, Dream Air is the best. And I can't really see that changing anytime soon. And that's what I said at the start of this video. I don't think things are going to change too much when it comes to the high end at this point in time. I really don't. And it's funny because I am wearing a Play for Dream t-shirt today, and that's a headset I used to highly recommend, but sadly you can't get them anymore. It's basically, I think, discontinued. Otherwise I would recommend that and talk about that, and I have in the past, but unfortunately I don't really recommend that simply because you can't get them. Now, in terms of the Samsung XR headset, I've never tried it, folks, so I can't really comment, but it does look like a decent headset. But unless I've tried it, folks, I can't really comment. And this video is all about my personal experiences with these headsets. And I don't just give you a review, I give you my real world sort of living with them every day kind of experience, you know? Because it's all very well doing a review for about a week and then just moving on to the next latest and greatest. I don't do that on this channel. I give you all of the information based upon using them for months and even years. So I'm not quite finished yet, folks, because there is one more headset that I'm going to include as a wild card. I include this as a hyper level VR headset or XR headset, a bit like a Lamborghini or a Zonda or a Bugatti. If you want mixed reality, that's something that's very important to you, and basically enterprise level software, military grade quality, then there really is only 2 headsets out there. That's the Varia XR4 and the Somnium VR1. But I must admit, I am going to recommend to you the Somnium VR1. And if you haven't seen recently some of the videos I've been making, because I have been using the Somnium VR1 quite a lot and featuring on the channel a fair bit in X-Plane, as well as using it with the Moser F18 panel and the G1000 display. Basically, if you want to use it with peripherals and you have a mixed reality setup, the Somnium VR1 is absolutely unbeatable. You don't have to go through a paywall to access all of the software features. The field of view of that is really very, very impressive. Up to around 130, 135 degrees. I'm personally getting around 125, 126. That's because I like to wear it quite loosely. You have eye tracking, hand tracking, which I've also shown in X-Plane. It is a fabulous headset. Now, in terms of the actual panel itself, admittedly, it is only, I say that in inverted commas, because it actually looks way sharper than a 35p PD panel should. I have no idea how Somnium have done it, but the 35p PD panel is very sharp, but it is getting on a bit. It has a QLED display, but it has local dimming now with very nice black levels. You don't get hardly any glare. Really, if money is no objective and you want a fully featured VR headset, XR headset, it still is the Somnium VR1. It really is, and some of the B-roll I've been showing on the screen hopefully showcases what you can do with it. And if you've got a green screen set up, then oh my god, seeing the actual your own cockpits come to life and you can, you know, actually physically touch all the buttons. That's why the Somnium VR1 is being used for military pilot training. High speed. There's a reason why the military are using it now. So that's it, folks. A lot of information in that video, and I'm sure I've missed a ton of things, because saying all the stuff I've said without any prompts, without any script, just basically talking to you whilst I'm flying, it actually shocks me how much I do know about all this VR stuff now, but I will have missed a ton of things. A lot of that is because I'm not giving you a full review of each of these headsets, I'm giving you an overview. And, you know, I think hopefully I've covered most of the stuff. But if I have missed a few things, please do let me know in the comments below. But yeah, a congratulations to Pimax for being really the best mainstream flight simulation high-end VR headset out there, and for Somnium Space for still being in this list in 2026. That's pretty amazing. Whew, we're now going to land at Jersey in the FS Reborn Phenom 300. It's been quite a ride today and my voice is breaking. If you're wondering why I'm wearing this t-shirt, it's because I've actually done a bulk of videos because I'm going away for the summer. So if I am wearing the same t-shirt, sorry about that. I am doing quite a number of videos in one day. So yeah, we've got the Quest 3, the Pimax Crystal Light. Let's just count these a minute. Then we've got the Bigscreen Beyond 2 and 2E, the Crystal Super, the Megan X hanging in there, and the Dream Air. So 6 VR headsets and a wildcard 7 with the Somnium VR1. 500. And to think people think VR is dead, I don't think so. It might be for you know, AAA games and stuff, and I'm sad about that as well, folks. I'd love to see a fully fledged Assassin's Creed or Far Cry, but unfortunately it's not happening. Now, in terms of the Steam frame, I don't really think that's gonna be, whoa, what the massive pocket of air there. I'm gonna try and not go around here, but that was crazy. Don't know how I corrected myself there. That was still not down yet though. But the Steam frame, I think, is gonna price itself out of the market for this, because it's gonna be probably about $1,000 or pounds or even more than that. And for that price, I personally would go for a Quest 2. Sorry, not Quest 2. Quest 3. Sorry. Or a Bigscreen Beyond 2E, really. Or maybe even a Crystal Light, but no, I think I'd go for a Beyond 2E for this kind of thing, because you want superb micro OLED visuals, and you can get that now for £1,000. But we'll see. Look at this flashing here. I hate this flashy issue at the moment with the grass. Very, very annoying. I need to find a solution for that. So that's why I haven't really mentioned the Steam frame, because I don't feel personally it's even going to make this list, because it's going to be very expensive for what it does. And you know, for maybe PC VR gaming it will have its own niche, but for flight simulation, for the price versus what you're getting, for example a monochrome pass-through, I'd rather have a Quest 3. Or if you want those better visuals, go for a Beyond 2. So that will do for this video today. Thank you so much for watching. If you appreciate all I do here on the channel, I do have discount codes in the description below for some of the headsets out there that I've spoken about, particularly the Beyond 2E at the moment, the $100 off, that's incredible, as well as the Dream Air, Crystal Super. So yeah, bag yourself a good deal and support the channel as well. But for now, that will do. I need a coffee because my voice is about gone. But feel free to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you again very soon. Take care, and bye for now. Love this aircraft so much. If you haven't bought the Phenom 300E yet, guys, you're missing out. You really are.